So, Franco Colapinto has signed for Alpine on a multi-year deal as their reserve and test driver for 2025. Yeah. Okay, like anyone actually believes that, because you're going to pay 10 to 12 million dollars, euros, whichever currency it was that was floated around not too long ago, at the end of last year, when it seemed that Red Bull, RB and Alpine were after Colapinto's services, and it was, yes, around 10 to 12 million in whichever currency it was to break him out of that Williams contract. And that is why Williams have allowed him to leave, because of the substantial amount of money to break his contract and get him to leave Williams. So you wouldn't let a talent like that leave if, for one, you wasn't happy, of course, with your driver pairing, but also with the substantial amount of money that another team's willing to pay, which Alpine obviously have. And as everyone has mentioned, what does this do to Jack Doohan? Where does it leave him? Because, well, he was fortunate to participate in at least one Grand Prix last year, with, of course, Ocon leaving a bit early, and he kept the car intact and did what he needed to do, being shoved in that car at the very tail end of the season. He kept it quiet, and he was relatively unnoticed throughout that race. And, well, you would have said that really he kind of had to do the same this year as well. Just try and keep it close to Gasly, who's very experienced and has just kind of progressed, I think, every year since he's left Red Bull. And it would have been a great benchmark for him this year. But now that's completely changed, because you don't sign Franco Colapinto, as we've mentioned, for that amount of money for him to just sit on the sidelines. Nah, no way, Jose. Now, it has been rumoured that Jack Doohan's contract supposedly has a performance clause in it that would allow Alpine to remove Jack Doohan after 5 races. I reckon there's probably another caveat in there, or another clause in that contract that will allow them to remove Jack Doohan regardless. And to be honest with you, the amount of money they've just spent on Colapinto, they've clearly got cash to throw around, which is odd, I guess, because it seems like they're trying to sell the team, but I guess they've saved some money by closing down their engine side of the business and letting loads of people go and heading to Mercedes engines. Who knows the state Alpine is in at the moment. I still have not much faith that they'll even be called Alpine as we head into 2026, or the next couple of years anyway. But yeah, clearly Flavio Briatore has got cash to spend, and he is not afraid to spend it. And yeah, what would it cost to break Jack Doohan's contract, even if Jack Doohan did perform well in these 5 races? Probably a fraction of the cost it was for Franco Colapinto. Now, for Jack Doohan, unfortunately, he doesn't have the star power that Franco Colapinto has at the moment. And I will say, I am happy Colapinto is, by the looks of it, going to get an opportunity probably to race this season, but not at the expense of another rookie. That's the one thing that I didn't want it to be. You want it to be for someone who's outstayed their welcome, Lance Stroll, that type of character or driver. So yeah, on one hand, I'm happy Colapinto no doubt is going to be participating this year, but for Jack Doohan, it's a real shame, because it does seem like his F1 career could be very short-lived. Now, what does Jack Doohan though have to do in these 5 races? Well, he has to do what Liam Lawson has done and what Colapinto did last year. Make a mark in the short amount of time you have in that seat, because Colapinto has earned himself this position in F1 because of, well, arguably 4 good races, because the other 5 races weren't great. And of course, Williams found themselves in a sticky situation with not much of a car left to put together because of crashes from Albon and Colapinto. But he did enough in his initial introduction into F1 to make the likes of Red Bull inquire about him, and now he's no doubt going to be an Alpine driver alongside Pierre Gasly before the year is out. So Doohan needs to do exactly the same. He hasn't got time to bed in. He hasn't got that luxury. It's going to be a high-pressured situation, and some people either rise to it or they don't, and they fall to the wayside. And I really hope Doohan gets... I really do hope Doohan gets some decent results here. What he needs to do is just not even necessarily beat Pierre Gasly, but he needs to do enough to show other teams up and down the paddock that, look, I'm here to take an opportunity on me. You've seen what I can do. I'm not a complete unknown. And who knows? We've got plenty of other rookies on the grid this year. Behrman, Antonelli, okay, they're backed more so by bigger teams, Mercedes and Ferrari, but Bortoletto is at stake F1. Something could happen there with him, and who knows with other drivers up and down the grid. We've seen changes mid-season before. So yeah, I think the driver who'll be most happy about this, though, is potentially Alex Albon, because I did state in a previous video that he is under a considerable amount of pressure this year with Carlos Sainz alongside him. But not just for that, but because if he falters, they had Franco Colapinto waiting in the wings, looking over his shoulder, no doubt, for any mistake that he would make this season to vie to get into that seat and take it away from Alex. And now that kind of pressure, one element of pressure, he's still under a lot this season, of course, coming up against Carlos Sainz, but that will no doubt be a big weight off his shoulders, knowing that he doesn't have to look back over his shoulder to see where Franco Colapinto is. So yeah, he can kind of freely just focus on Carlos Sainz now, rather than say those mistakes and so forth. And we know James Vowles isn't really the one to make kind of quick, hot-headed decisions and get rid of, say, Alex, who's just signed a multi-year contract as well last year, extensions, and get rid of him. So yeah, a real shame for Jack Doohan. I really hope that he digs in deep, and I think a lot of F1 fans, as much as they're happy to see Colapinto no doubt be on the grid for this season, as we do want to see the best drivers on the grid, of course we do. And Colapinto, I think, did show enough in that run, that 9-race run, an opportunity that he got last year to warrant a position on the grid. Sometimes that opportunity comes at the wrong time, but for Colapinto, it seems that things have just aligned for him. Also helps that he's got considerable amount of backing, and he seems to be a lot more commercially viable as well. I mean, in the day, it all comes down to the money, cha-ching, doesn't it? And Jack Doohan, while of course he has his own fan base, he's not worldwide renowned or known as Colapinto has, and gained that fandom that Colapinto did in just half a season, really, not even half a season, which is tremendous, really, from Colapinto and his team. So, yeah, let's see what happens. Who knows? Jack Doohan could put in an absolute blinder. Who knows? This whole contract situation could get very messy again. But Alpine, it seems like that really now you just want to stay as far away from them as possible. They're announcing test drivers and reserve drivers left, right and centre. Yeah, God knows. For Colapinto, though, he's going to be on the grid. That's the main thing for him. And Jack Doohan just really needs to prove himself in these next 5 races. Look at what Lawson did. Look at what Colapinto did himself, who no doubt is going to replace his seat, and do exactly the same and prove to teams up and down the paddock that you're worth that opportunity as well, and you're proven. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you excited? Are you sad? Still got to wait till the season even starts, and it's already heating up off track at least.